Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Kayleigh McEnany completely shuts down Jessica Tarlov during this insane anti-Elon rant, and this retort is one for the ages. Let's dive in.
We talked about Dylan Mulvaney, a single trans influencer who was on a single can of beer for months. And that can of beer set the conservative movement on proverbial fire, rooting against at least half an American company, the Anheuser-Busch side of things. Kid Rock out there doing target practice with Budweiser cans, people vowing to decimate that brand. And Dylan Mulvaney has much less of an impact on people's lives than Elon Musk does. So is that okay? Or that was wrong too, and everyone wants to mea culpa over that? It was one can of beer with one transgender person on it.
No one was intimidated not to buy Bud Light.
Really? Then why did it drop?
No,
why
because,
did they lose market value?
Because it wasn't Dylan Mulvaney. It was the marketing person who denigrated the people who drank the beer.
Really, Dylan Mulvaney didn't get denigrated?
She did. He did.
Sorry.
I correct myself.
It's good that you
No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's basically it. Also on the Musk wasn't allowed to get the astronauts down. The timeline doesn't add up. This NASA administrator from last summer, Bill Nelson, said there was no discussion of that whatsoever, didn't know about the offer. And NASA officials have said that late February was the earliest that the crew could return without interrupting other scheduled missions.
Oh, okay. So they were just hanging out in space for 9 months.
Well,
that's all it was.
If you read articles about it.
If I read articles about it?
Well, what else am I supposed to do? I didn't call them up.
Okay. So they weren't stranded. They were just
spending
a great time up in space.
Okay.
It was one thing to shoot a can of beer and another thing to throw a Molotov cocktail at a $50,000 car.
Yeah, last time I checked, there weren't conservatives setting Budweiser factories on fire. There were not crazed conservatives keying Budweiser vehicles or trucks around the country. That wasn't happening. But look at this. I mean, Elon Musk rescues 2 astronauts who were up there for 286 days, and this is how he's thanked. We'll light your businesses on fire. And the absolute absurd behavior of the left. He triggers liberals so much. I mean, to watch Tim Walz there talk about the joy in his day of the stock app. Like I pulled up the stock app on my phone. I'm not Nancy Pelosi. I don't follow it minute by minute. So it says welcome to stocks on my phone. On his phone, he's tracking Elon Musk. He's excited when it drops to 225. Well, sorry, Tim Walz, you're having a bad day. It's now at 235. And it's not just him. Mark Kelly, the supposed moderate, the guy who's such a moderating voice in the Democratic Party. Every time I get in the car over the last 60 days, it reminds me of the damage from Trump and Musk. Who gets in their vehicle and for 60 days, the thing on their mind is how much they despise a politician? This is entirely
Musk
abnormal
called him a traitor.
Behavior.
Musk called Mark Kelly an American hero a traitor.
When you've gotten in your car, I know you don't drive, you're in Manhattan, but when
I
you
do drive.
Okay, so every time you got in your car for 60 days, have you thought about how much you hate Donald Trump? I mean,
No,
that is
I mostly think about
behavior.
Moana because that's all that we listen to.
Well, I love Moana too. But I would just say this. Libs of TikTok said you have a choice. You could be on Team Innovation or Team Destruction. Team Innovation rescues people from space and creates billion-dollar companies. Team Destruction burns down said factories. I will take Team Innovation any day.
Thank you, Kayleigh. Thank you for being on the right team. Team Innovation beats Team Outrage every single time. And that's one of the biggest problems with the Democrat Party, being so ridiculously bureaucratic and arguably feminine. There's nothing wrong with being feminine, by the way, but when your political ideology sort of revolves in that sphere, everything becomes bureaucratic and everything sort of becomes an us versus them kind of battle, and that just kind of devolves from there. And so when you have that kind of thinking, you're not looking for innovation. You're not really looking for a solution to the problem. You're just looking for someone to really just, listen to you. And the American people listened to that sort of complaining for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. They said, enough of this nonsense. Let's actually get people who go in there and want to see things done correctly. The majority of the American people voted for Trump because they want to cut ridiculous government spending. They want Elon Musk to go in there and expose just how badly our tax dollars are being wasted. And speaking of wasted tax dollars, let's talk about how badly NASA messed up this mission by basically giving Boeing a blank check to go out there and just screw up. Remember how bad Boeing was about 6-7 months ago when there were nothing but issues with, let's see, their plane's not working properly. And then there was a major problem in their, I believe it was their Seattle factory. And then there were all the issues of the spacecraft that they started sending up that we found, but we sent that spacecraft up anyway, and then we left a couple of people up on the International Space Station. And so Elon Musk, being the innovator and, let's be honest, showman that he really is, gave an offer under the table to the government saying, hey, I could get these guys down for you in an earlier timeline. The government said, no, we want to line this up with other things to save on costs. So this is ultimately sort of a he said, she said sort of situation. But Tarlov is out here talking about just how bad it is that Elon Musk is doing these things just unsupervised. And then he's calling out Mark Kelly. And let's be honest, Mark Kelly, on one hand, let's take off the political helmet for just a moment, is an American hero, right? To some degree, yes. But when Arizona, I'm a little bit wary of calling Arizona politicians American heroes, okay? The John McCain legacy really hasn't lasted as well as we would have liked. It kind of rusted over really quickly. And so I'm a little bit wary of giving Mark Kelly that same exact name as an American hero, but he does deserve some accolades as he's been into space, he's been a pilot, he's served this country. But okay, I can respect that. But when you go to Ukraine, immediately after a major tiff between our president and their president, don't you think that at least undermines your own country's ability to negotiate? Isn't that borderline traitorous, sort of in that ballpark? You're not playing on the field, but you definitely bought a hot dog and you're sitting in the stands just waiting on something to happen there, buddy. So when Elon Musk calls Mark Kelly a traitor, I'm not going to clutch my pearls at that one, but Jessica Tarlov will. Because for some reason, she wants to defend the indefensible. And so Democrats like to defend the defenseless, but they more often than not, well, they defend the indefensible. Having Dylan Mulvaney dress in drag and then say that he drinks Bud Light, well, that's going to leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I'm sorry that that's a running theme here, but let's also be honest. Americans, we can do better than, Anheuser-Busch. And Yingling is right there. There's so many better things that we could be making than Bud Light. Hogs won't drink Bud Light, for just lack of a better phrase. And so we get into this situation where liberals will compare the Dylan Mulvaney outrage to the left burning down Tesla dealerships. I don't think that's on a similar playing field here, okay? I don't think that that is the exact same thing. And then to go off and then say, oh, well, we're really protesting just Elon Musk here. No, you're not, okay? You're latching onto the one thing that you can attack, and that is a defenseless target like a Tesla dealership, okay? They're not armed to the teeth like a federal government building would be. Let's be honest here, there was one time that it wasn't armed to the teeth. It did not end well. But regardless of that fact, to compare those two is absolutely asinine. And I know Jessica Tarlov is doing her best here, but the reality is Jessica is not exactly known for her brains. She is known for being very amicable and getting along with people like Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld, who will use any opportunity at their disposal to jump on you and make fun of you. But when it comes to SpaceX, and back to Elon Musk and Mark Kelly just for a moment, and again, I want to talk about specifically why this is such a weird story. It's not America first to pull the rug out from under an ally and leave their people to die, Kelly wrote. This kind of foreign policy will end with no one in the world trusting America. Mark Kelly, I get it. He wants to protect America's prestige on the world, and that's actually a very noble idea. That's actually pretty good from a foreign policy perspective. But when this foreign policy takes away American tax dollars in the hundreds of billions, when this foreign policy looks at Ukrainians and look at them as basically a meat shield for the rest of Europe. By the way, that's how Europe is looking at this Ukrainian war. They're looking at this like like Ukrainians are there to just bleed Russia dry, and whatever Ukrainians are casualties, well, that's just a small price to pay for salvation. That's just ghoulish to me, ultimately. And that's why Musk has been so anti-war in Ukraine, because he's realized that this is not something that the West needs to be propping up. And we even caused some of this to happen. So ultimately, Mark Kelly, I get it. You are an astronaut. You are, to some degree, an American hero. But you are also supporting a war that doesn't even have American interests at heart, unless you take into account the CIA, Hunter Biden, even Mitt Romney's kids who now serve on Ukrainian oil boards. This is a war for oil, it's a war for money, and it is not a war for anyone's salvation other than the people with vested interests. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.